Hey, so I'm Dan Black. I'm one of Kevin's knucklehead friends from the meat streets of Laurelhurst. And I was reading the program when I walked in, and I'm pretty sure I'm on the agenda to add color to his fun-loving personality was a pleasure enjoyed by all. And I gotta tell you, I was nervous coming in here, and I'm really glad that Tim and Terry went before me, because probably can hit on some themes that are thematically less than respectable. And I don't know all you that well, so the AC/DC shirt and some of the stuff that's already been said makes me feel a little bit better about jumping in here. A lot of you were at a toast that we did for Kevin shortly after he passed at Barlamos, and I spoke that night, and I spoke from the heart that night, and it's really the only way I know how to do it. And so, thematically, a lot of the stuff I say today is going to be the same. I'm going to add a few new things, but bear with me, and I am going to have a point at the end of some fun stories about Kevin. But I started that night with a quote that I feel was appropriate. It came to mind as soon as I heard that Kevin passed, and I think it was appropriate to the situation then and now, but it is, everyone dies, but not everyone fully lives. And I had a lot of people come up to me after that night and said, "Man, that was a really great quote. Where did you get it?" I said, "I have no idea, it just sounded awesome and I agree with it." But I looked it up, and it turns out it was from William Wallace, who's the great Scottish freedom fighter from Braveheart fame, and seems lofty. And I would say that, mine and Kevin's endeavors were decidedly less lofty, but we did do a lot of living together. And I want to share a couple of the stories, and the stories that I picked. I picked them because they illustrate what was most important to me about Kevin and what I love most about Kevin. And I'll get to that after I tell the stories. But I met Kevin in Y-Guides, and a lot of you probably don't know what Y-Guides is, but we live in a great community, and there's all the typical crazy stuff that happens in communities where people know each other really well and raise kids together and all that stuff, but there's no question that Northeast Seattle is a community that has authentic bonds and has a lot of really great things that bind people together, and Y-Guides is one of them. And it's Y-Guides is something the YMCA puts together that it's meant to have dads hang out with their kids. And a lot of people around here participated in it, or do participate in it. Anyway, the name of our Y-Guides group were the Fire-Breathing Dragons of Death. Which is, I'm pretty sure, a name that Kevin came up with. If it's not, there's no reason to give away the good story, so we're going to give him credit. Stark contrast to Lucy's group, which was the Rainbow Unicorns. George's group was the Pink Pandas. So I think it's probably pretty obvious which name I like best. But the Fire-Breathing Dragons of Death had a lot of fun together. And I met Kevin for the first time at Orkila, which is kind of the Y-Guides signature event. The Y owns an incredible property out on Orcas Island called Camp Orkila, and you do a bunch of stuff throughout the year, but most of it's geared around going to Orkila with your kids and spending 2 awesome days in the woods in a beautiful spot. Focus on your kids. It's incredible. But I had come to the group late, and so the first Orkila trip was the first time I had met Kevin, and Kevin was like a bolt of lightning, man. it's everything that Tim and Terry just talked about. There was two things that I immediately noticed about Kevin. And the first one is the one that attracts me to people the most, and that he was fun, like really fun. You know, Tim talked about how Kevin, one of the ways he expressed love and showed people that he loved them was through cooking. So did Kyla, man, he was grilling up a storm. He brought like 2 portable barbecues and like 7 different kinds of brats. I mean, like, it was incredible. And, you know, part of it was about the food, but it was mainly what he was telling us all was that he loved us. I mean, that's what it was. It was the way that he was telling us that. And man, I was immediately attracted to the guy, and it's one of the things that's been fun for me since Kevin passed is talking to the guys in Sam's White Guides group too, and everybody's theme was the same. Kevin's enthusiasm for life was infectious. It was obvious to everybody. And, you know, like I say, it hit me immediately off. The other thing I noticed about him right away is he was up for anything now. And, you know, one of the things my mom always told me, she said, Danny, always say yes. She's like, you're gonna regret the things that you don't do. You're never gonna regret the things that you do. And of course I listen to my mom. But the second thing that attracted me to Kevin was that. Kevin was up for anything. Tim said it best. Balls to the walls. Full throttle at all times. And man, that's something I can get behind and something that I loved about Kevin. So anyway, those two things made Kevin and I good partners in crime. We said yes to a lot of stuff together over the years, and I think you guys probably assume that I'm using the term partners in crime facetiously, but I'm actually going to tell you about an actual crime. So, you know, I mentioned that we live in a great community, and there's lots of things that bind us together, but another kind of staple of the community is the Laurelhurst Elementary School auction. And I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was a long time ago. But our friends Tish and Jen were chairs of the auction one year, and the auction was going to take place at Club Husky, you know, which is like the suites at Husky Stadium that has bars and everything. It's a great spot for a party. And, but they asked Kevin and I if we would throw a tailgate before the auction started, just to get everybody in the mood and do a little pre-funk and all that. I mean, of course, we said yes, and it actually seemed like a pretty easy thing to do. You know, I mean, how many times have we all partied at Husky Stadium? Like 8 million. And so, you know, Kevin and I were like, this is going to be easy. Set up a tent, get a keg. Kevin brought the grills, all that. So we proceeded to do that. We got there, it was a decent day. You know, walked along the cut, kind of up towards Montlake on the top of the hill where you got a nice view of the cut, sunny out, no trees around. Awesome. Set up the keg. You know, people had bought, I don't know how much the tickets cost, but there was, you know, 100 people there or whatever. It was super fun. We were having a good time. You know, all of a sudden, Seattle Police Department rides up on a couple of bikes, and you know, it's like they're like, "Hey, who's in charge of this party?" And you know, Kevin and I raise our hands, and they, you know, we kind of go over to the side to talk to him. And he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Well, like we got an auction going. We're just, you know, we're doing a little tailgate here, so pretty fun." We're like, "What's up with you?" And he's like, and I'm like, we've done this a million times, you know? And he's like, well, and I'm like, so what's the problem with this going on right now? I mean, we do it at Husky games all the time. And he's like, well, this is illegal. And he's like, we can't arrest 68,000 people when they do it, but we can arrest you. We were both like, that's a good answer. said, hey, it's for the kids, you know, there's not much going on. We need another hour. And they're like, and I forgot to mention that the theme of this party was 80s butt rock. So I had a Van Halen t-shirt on and a mullet wig. Kevin had about the same thing and everybody else. So we managed to backtrack enough that, and they said, oh, by the way, we have another problem. They're like, we're gonna let you go, but you need to move down the street, or towards the rock wall. Because it was the day that the UW transit station was it was like the rhythm cutting. So the SPD's like, well, so Patty Murray, Maria Angela, Val Constantine, whoever the mayor was at the time, they're like, you need to get out of their sight. So we moved down to the rock wall, through the rest of the party, had the auction, it was great. So then I'm going to share one more anecdote and try not to stay too long, but this is a story that a lot of you heard before. This is my favorite Kevin story, and it's my favorite Kevin story because it's the thing that illustrates the most what I love about Kevin. You know, the image is seared in my head. So, again, another Y Guys event, and if I was going to name this story, it would be AC/DC and Shots of Crown at 7 a.m. And so, you know, I mentioned that Kevin always said yes. So when we were doing Y Guys, Molly and I have a place at Whistler that we go to a lot, and so I offered up to the Y Guys. I was like, hey, you guys want to do a ski trip? Kevin said yes in about a millisecond. Not only did he say yes, he offered to help me organize it. He was a co-host, all that stuff. Tim hit some of these things. Kevin immediately organized all the obligatory planning sessions at the Dutch. He bought all the groceries. He put the menu together, all of it. You know, there's 10 or 12 of us, dads and kids, that all went out together. And it ended up being, I think probably for the people that were on that trip, I mean, it's passed into myth and legend at this point, but I think it's going to be some of the best memories that any of us have ever had growing up together. And the thing that illustrated it the most, so we got up there on a Friday, made dinner, kept it pretty calm, all that stuff, went to bed. Looking forward to getting up and having a good ski day the next day. 7 a.m., what I hear is dun, dun, AC/DC back in line, 7 a.m. And I walk out and I'm like, what the is going on? I walk out the door, Kevin, big grin on his face, like 7 pounds of bacon cooking. I walk out the door, he has a shot of Crown waiting for me. 7 a.m. And I'm like, what the, this guy is crazy. And so, anyway, we all did shots of Crown. A couple of them. Went skiing. And it became a tradition. We did this for 10 years, and there was not a single morning that we didn't wake up to AC/DC and a shot of Crown. And, okay, that's a total knucklehead story, but why am I telling it? Kevin fully lived, but to me, his biggest gift was he made your life fuller, bringing us along with him. And I didn't want to do a shot of Crown at 7 a.m. I didn't want to listen to AC/DC at 7 a.m. But we got up and went skiing every day. We had a full day every day. We were with our kids. It was some of our best memories. And we would have had a great ski trip without Kevin, but the fact that Kevin was there, it's this much higher. And that's just the way it was. And, you know, I'm going to hit some of the things that Kevin, or Tim and Terry already said. Kevin was a wonderful husband and father. He was a complete community asset. He was a Little League coach. He was a flag football coach. I mentioned the auction and Y Guides. I think one of the biggest examples of this is when we did the toast at Barlamos and the vigil afterward. It looked like there was 1 million people there with candles at Kevin's house when we were there. And I've never seen more people at Barlamos. It was amazing, and it speaks to what he was. I know he's a good son and an accomplished athlete and all that stuff. And so I'll close it by saying, look, in the real world, Kevin's heart failed him. We all know that. But in my mind, the world that matters, Kevin's heart was his biggest asset. You've heard it here several times already. Kevin had the opposite problem as the Grinch. Kevin's heart was a few sizes too big. And to me, that was his biggest gift to all of us. It was the source of why he fully lived and brought us all along with him. And another theme of the heart is, another saying I like is, and I don't know how it goes exactly, but, as long as people are in the hearts of the people that love them, they're alive. That's the way I'm going to choose to look at it. I can't tell you how many texts I've got in the past couple of weeks of people sending me a shot of them taking a shot of Crown, saying in memory of Kevin, something like that. And that stuff's real. And I do know that his friends, his brothers, his family, we're never going to forget Kevin because he's right here. And so, from that standpoint, he's got a lot of life left